What's something money can buy we poor people don't even know of? Story 1. There are companies that sell books by the foot, usually leather-bound. It's for decorating, so your in-home library is stocked with books. Normally you can pick genres or just let the company fill your shelves. You just give them the length of your shelves and your color scheme, and they send you books to fill the shelves in bindings that harmonize with your room's color palette. Story 2. I do it for the hilariously rich in LA. My favorite thing you can buy is a $300,000 theater streaming device that allows you to watch just-released movies directly into your home theater. It requires a background check and a huge amount of money, but then any movie released in theaters is directly uploaded into your system, and then you can watch at home in your own little movie theater. Story 3. The biggest thing is time. Need to get to London for a meeting, leave for the airport, and your plane charter waits for you. Need a haircut? A person comes to your house to do it for you. Imagine a lot of the things you go out to do on a daily basis, and imagine having people to do all that. Need a new phone? Peter will get you the latest iPhone, programmed L, and working the way yours was before. Drop it in the toilet? He bought 5. Story 4. Access. Friends and I flew from DC to Dallas to watch a Redskins-Cowboys game before they moved to the new stadium. Last minute, a friend joined and didn't have a ticket to the game. My well-connected friend picked up the phone and called someone, and next thing we know, some guy is standing at the stadium with a sign with our names on it to hand us our tickets. It should be noted that 3 of us had tickets and he didn't. Since he couldn't get a ticket to sit next to us, he just bought 4 tickets and even better seats for all of us. To pay it forward, we let someone in the nosebleeds take our original 3 seats. Story 5. The majority of my clients are in the $10M plus club, and many are worth well over $100 million. They buy services, things that save them time. Subscription to a company that comes and fills up the gas tank to all your cars every morning. Car delivery service that goes and picks up the Ferrari you want to drive from the warehouse and brings it to you. Stuff like that. Story 6. Concierge medicine. You get your own dedicated doctor, perhaps your own whole clinic. You never wait for tests. You never wait for an appointment. Your doctor will make house calls and even diagnose and prescribe over the phone. Concierge banking. You don't go to the bank to withdraw cash on the rare times you need cash. You call the bank rep and they will courier the money to you. Family offices, the legal and financial equivalent of a private clinic of your own. 1 or more lawyers, 1 or more CPAs, both with the usual staff. Want to buy a property? Just call the office and they will handle all the paperwork. Even spin up a numbered Delaware company and sign deeds for you. Bespoke cars. At the lower end, this means you sit down with a Rolls-Royce rep and going over choices. They will arrange a custom paint color and guarantee no other car will get that shade. Ditto for upholstery, dash treatment, etc. In the middle, the likes of Lamborghini and Koenigsegg have lists of billionaire car collectors. When they come up with a concept, they consult with the members of that list before any metal gets shaped. When they release the latest hypercar and say only 25 will be made, that's because only 25 billionaires said they wanted one. Being able to say you have a 1 of 25 car is valuable over and above the car itself. At the very high end, you can call them and pitch your own concepts and they will build a complete 1 of 1 car for you. The Sultan of Brunei famously had a lot of total one-off cars made to his exact specifications from many different manufacturers. The Rainbow Sheikh, Sheikh Hamad bin Hamdan Al Nahyan, has also done this numerous times. Story 7. Relationships. I once worked at an Olympic horse ranch in Colorado, and the owner was from Seattle and was friends with someone that played guitar, Kurt Cobain. Then talking to one of the riders, they had been to a party over the weekend that Mark Zuckerberg was at. That's when it hit me. When you're rich, you just know everyone or know someone that knows them. 6 degrees of separation is only for the masses. The elites is closer to 2 or 1. Story 8. Bulk. I'm not boasting because what's the point? It's anonymous. I'm financially stable now, not wealthy, but I'll probably never have to worry about money. When I was really poor, I would buy part-worn tires for my car because I never had the money for new tires, but I'd have to replace them more often. Now I have some money, I can buy good tires that last longer. When I see dishwasher tablets on offer, I buy about 100 pounds worth, and that's me set for a few years. I bulk buy anything on offer, which isn't perishable when it's on offer. It's like I'm looking after my future self. I can also be incredibly irresponsible with money too. I'll be frugal for myself and won't spend more than 100 pounds on a coat or 80 pounds on shoes, but I'll spend far more on a gift for a relative. And I'm not saying that to sound like a great guy. I'm just an average guy, but one with a shitload of dishwasher tablets. Story 9. Special hospital suites. When I worked for a major medical center, they had a special floor for rich people who could afford to pay more. It was nicer with more up-to-date equipment, had connected rooms for visitors, and even a dedicated cook and dietitian who would tailor every meal to the patient's specific tastes within their medical diet, such as liquid, mechanically soft, low sodium, etc., and accounting for allergies versus normal hospital food that isn't even really seasoned to avoid stuff like allergies. I was on psych off in the oldest building on campus, so I never even went there. But I do know one of our patients was the parent or child or spouse or sibling or something of some big shot doctor who insisted they be moved there while they were getting their first few rounds of ECT, electroconvulsive therapy, because while the patient absolutely wanted it and would have gone outpatient without issues, we never do the first few rounds outpatient in case they have an adverse reaction. Our psych doc stood their ground and said the patient had to stay on psych, even just the lower acuity unit, because our nurses cared for ECT patients every day, and they didn't trust the fancy suite nurses to do the aftercare for that. It was an entire dick-measuring contest that went on for a few days that was absolutely hilarious to hear about when I got pulled down there from the acute unit. Like, oh, boo fucking who, our psych units aren't good enough for your loved one. Maybe you should have thought about that when y'all were making the budget and decided that building full of mold was good enough for my mostly poor and homeless psych patients. Some of those C-suite fuckers could really stand to sleep one goddamn night on one of the piss-soaked mattresses they gave us shit for throwing out. I spent 2 years working an all-male correctional psych unit with convicted rapists, and I still don't think I've met a single person as sadistically evil as a hospital CEO. Story 10. We all know that a lot of wealthy people own nice yachts. What a lot of people may not know is that many of these yachts aren't taken across the ocean. Wealthy people hire yacht transportation services to move their yachts around. A larger ship will pick up the yacht and ferry it to the desired location. The wealthy person will fly to that location on a private jet, then head over to the yacht to party. Story 11 time. It's the greatest thing money can buy. Lawn care, maid service, personal chef, home repair, personal shopper, chauffeur, concierge services, other folks mentioned, etc. Some things like that aren't too expensive. Some of them are wildly expensive. You may be perfectly capable of doing these things yourself, but they take time and effort. If you can get past the cost and afford it, what they all can do is free up your time to do the things you actually want to do. Whether it's family time, playing sports, watching sports, video games, traveling, whatever. Time is really the true currency of life. Story 12, you get access to people, business opportunities, politicians, services. Back in the 1980s, my dad was appointed CEO of a mid-sized financial institution. Salaries back then were not as high as today, but still well above average. We lived in a large house, best neighborhood, had live-in maid, a company car with a chauffeur, gardener, cook, cleaners, etc. After his appointment suddenly, I started being invited to parties, received free membership to exclusive nightclubs, met the kids of some truly wealthy individuals who had private jets, yachts, holiday properties in NY and Paris. Banks give you priority. You receive end-of-year gifts. Paintings, watches, TV. At uni, the lecturers gave me better treatment and grades, sorry to admit. Other students were keen to assist with assignments. You don't even know who real friends are anymore, LOL. Famous artists go to these after parties and dinners and you meet them. Nothing is ever difficult. The secretary gives a call, and all of a sudden that hard-to-get, whatever, becomes available. I got through acquaintances to see what money can buy and the lifestyle it offers. It's pretty good. Story 13. I'm not sure what the correct term is, but I think the best term would be a household family manager. I grew up with a kid whose parents were extremely well off because they owned a chain of casinos. You'd probably know the last name. Every single thing in their lives was managed by some lady and her assistant team. When I mean everything, I mean everything. Foreign trips, domestic trips, doctor's appointments, dinner reservations, sports practices, meetings with attorneys, business meetings, grocery delivery, household duties, get-togethers, every single minute, detail. Their entire days were pre-planned from start to finish, weeks and months in advance. All they had to do was just exist. Their lives were essentially on autopilot. Story 14. Worked in employee benefits consulting. There are doctors who exist who only see people who are executives at their companies. If you aren't in the C-suite, then you don't have enough money to see these doctors. Oh, and emergency evac insurance. One of my clients had this specifically for their executives. So that way, if an executive was off in another country and things started to pop off or the executive gets hurt, a helicopter goes and gets them anywhere in the world. 24/7. Story 15 time. It sounds really simply until you start to think about it. You have cancer? Oh, let me spend a few million on advanced treatments and extend my life 20 years. Running a multi-million-dollar company and want to take off 2 months? Go ahead. Retire early and spend your 50s doing whatever you want instead of working a dead-end job until you are 65? Absolutely. Want to get off at noon on Friday and go catch a sports game? Go right ahead, etc., etc. Time is money, and the impoverished don't have the savings to allow them to essentially say, fuck you, I'm not working today. Because if they don't work their shift, it is the difference between being able to pay rent/food/utilities/bills, etc., whereas the wealthy don't have to worry about making ends meet. Story 16. Most major airports have a special VIP terminal for special rich VIPs who get to bypass all of the riffraff in the main terminals and wait for their private jets in luxury. I am not talking about a first-class lounge. Those are for the wannabe rich people. I am referring to a more special setup for the chosen few that is almost never discussed or advertised, but they are usually there. Story 17. Private medical. Sometimes waiting lists are so long, people don't realize you can just pay to go privately, even if you don't have insurance, and get things moved up. Did this for my wife when we were young. She was on a 6-month waiting list to see a specialist. Then she'd taken off without being seen because it was deemed not urgent. So I just paid the $350 for a specialist appointment. He referred her back into the public system with urgency, and 2 months later they operated on her. Story 18. Getting jacked legally and in a healthy fashion. Any guy over 40 in rich areas who is ripped is likely supplementing testosterone because they can afford to go to the doctor regularly and keep it monitored. Paired with private trainer and personal chef, you can be super fit. Story 19. Denial. I have an ex who doesn't ever worry about paying car insurance, or getting tickets, or driving through red lights. There is a family accountant who pays all the fines and files all the past paperwork. She thinks she is a great driver. Whenever she gets stopped, she goes off on the cops like it is a civil rights violation. One day, one hopes she will go too far. But in 56 years of bad driving and record-keeping, it never has. Story 20. As someone who spent a good amount of time as a semi-personal valet, I'm unsure if that's the correct word, but personal servant, for a very wealthy lady, to be honest. Functionally everything. Seriously. Want to turn a hotel into a private casino for a day? Well, why the fuck not? In home theater to watch movies marginally early without leaving the house. Someone added an extra zero to the cost and she didn't even notice. Cuisine from all around the world. One call and a top-of-the-line chef is flying from halfway across the world because she wanted a specific style on food on Sunday. The biggest thing is time. People say money can't buy time. They're wrong. It can't buy infinite time, but she had, I'd argue, 10 more hours in a day to do whatever she wanted, if not more. Story 21. You can buy yourself a new passport and a new home and a new life in another country. You can charter private jets and never have to fly commercial ever again. Or you could downgrade me, just fly business class, first class on commercial airlines. When you stay at Ritz, whichever one it is, make sure to be on good terms with the concierge. One phone call and they can get you dinner reservation at a totally booked out for months Michelin star restaurant. They're there for a reason. Use them. Story 22. Making unpleasant chores pleasant. For example, I dislike shopping for clothes. Whenever I go shopping for clothes with my rich cousins, they call a personal shopper. The personal shopper waits for you at a room in a store with pastries and clothes to try on. Anyone can access these at cheaper department stores like Bloomingdale's, but I think only rich people can call on a whim and get them set up. I am not rich, but my cousins are. Story 23. Vengeance. My boss is a very decent man, but don't rip him off. Married and family member once ripped him off for maybe $100K, but it hit the wrong nerve as he was family. So he put a team of lawyers on it, and a year later the other guy was divorced, bankrupt, and vanished from all social media and LinkedIn. It's been 10 years and I still look him up at times, but just vanished. Story 24. Growing up, my family had its moments of struggle. Our public transport system at the time had tickets which were simply hole-punched with the date and month, not the year. So we'd save them and store them neatly in envelopes marked by month and concession or full fare. After a few years of saving tickets, we pretty much had free train and bus travel for the next 10 years, until they changed the ticketing system to electronically stamped tickets with barcodes. Story 25. Private neighborhoods with dedicated airstrips, helipads, and hangar space are growing in popularity. I've seen them in Georgia, Colorado, Florida, and California. It's like paying into an HOA, but they maintain the airfield and amenities. You have to have special permission to land if you don't live there. Story 26. It's mostly people who have specific prices for certain duties. It goes from wholesome stuff like hiring someone to gift shop for you at a high-end store to renting a person as furniture. Then maybe it's not a secret, but once a shop or bank finds out your net worth, they treat you really different. For shops, they take you to a secret room where they offer you wine and meals, even if you're just browsing. For banks, once you reach a certain amount, you get special investment offers or opportunities to grow your money with a much higher interest than what's publicly available. Story 27, Access. To keep a long story short, I once started a small charity. A rich person got interested in our work, and we went to meet him. The charity was about bringing kids from abroad and giving them a health break in this country. Once we explained what we did to keep these kids occupied and interested, while over here the guy picks up the phone and dials a number, has a quick chat and puts down the phone. Now the kids had an invite to #10 Downing Street to meet the then PM. Needless to say, the guy took over the charity and it grew into something huge. Story 28, Time, plain and simple. I sold my company at 50 and have retired. I'm 51 now and enjoy every moment of every day doing exactly what I want to do for myself, my wife, and my kids. I've barely got fuck you money, but I'm there. I spend my day on my riding mower listening to podcasts and music in the sun just cutting the grass. Something I could pay someone to do for little money, but it's cathartic for me. I spent 30 years as a keyboard and phone warrior, the manual labor of chopping wood or building a shed or deck. While clearly not my highest and best use of time if you ask the grind culture, brings me peace and joy and aching muscles that make me feel alive. Story 29. Your tailor can phone your last measurements to a tailor near where you are, anywhere in the world, and they will make and deliver tailored clothes to you on demand. You can travel without a single item on you, throw your clothes in the trash when you go to bed, and have a full wardrobe for your stay ready early the next day, without talking to anyone at the location. Then you can just leave those behind when you leave and do it again at the next place. Poor people like an item of clothing and hang on to it. Rich people have an infinite supply of that item. Story 30, Citizenship in other countries. While many poor people struggle to get into the U.S., wealthy Americans can buy their way into other countries via golden passport programs. You can make some sort of investment. It varies by country, like investing in a local business or buying and revitalizing developing property. Meet an extremely low residency requirement, some countries as low as visiting for 2 weeks a year, and within 2 or 3 years, you'll be a fully naturalized citizen of that country with all the rights and privileges. Story 31. Not sure if it was mentioned, but Club 33, access from Disney comes to mind. It is invite only from Disney. You can't pay to be in without being invited first, and when you are, it is around $50,000 to start, plus $15,000 each year for renewal. I had a very close connection to a pretty well-known celebrity through a previous ex's parents, and we visited Club 33 to dine, using his reservations multiple times. He told us how he was able to land his invite by voice acting a movie and requesting an invite instead of a check for the work. 9 months later, his invite came in the mail, and he had his assistant send the check immediately. The first time we visited his house, he told us this story and then toured us their house, which had Disney stuff everywhere, a lot of extremely rare things normal people can't get access to. That's when I realized firsthand what level of access that kind of money gives you to your passions and hobbies. Story 32. Rich people that have a ton of assets like stock can borrow an insane amount of money from banks at basically no interest. There's a system in place that will basically let them borrow against the value of their assets, which the bank will get when the person dies. Normal people would have 2 assets to get money, and thus lose the opportunity to make money off of the appreciated value of those assets. Rich people can continue making money off of that stock. They don't have to sell it. They are effectively borrowing against its future value. Story 33 time. We think rich people hire someone to do everything for them. But if you think about it, the most important part of that is time. If you don't have to cook, clean, do laundry, or haul your kids to school, you save a ton of time. It's why men in the past had time to do things versus women. They had servants or wives to do everything for them. You can write great novels because someone else will bring you tea and make your lunch and wash your clothes and keep the kids out of your way. Time is our most valuable asset, and rich people get to have more of it. Story 34. You can rent celebrities for your private events, not just musicians, but bona fide actors and actresses. Super rich guy in Bel Air used to host his kid's birthday party in late October, so they went all out for a Halloween-themed party. Everyone at the kid's school was invited, plus their own friends. Each year, they'd hire some fantastic athlete to appear at the event. One year, it was Tony Hawk. Another year, it was some Olympic gold medal gymnastic winners. The one that threw me was when they hired Demi Moore, Anthony Kiedis, and Benicio del Toro to be guests at the party, to hang out and pretend they were friends with the kid. Mind you, this was a kid's Halloween party, set outside in a huge, massive garden, spread out over tennis courts and lawns with games, buffets, dessert tables, taco stands, omelet stands, BBQ, pizza, burgers, etc. No booze, no one allowed inside. All the event staff were dressed in Halloween costumes. It was very cool. But it was sad to see Kedis and DeToro sitting together commiserating. You could see the things we do for a paycheck look on their faces. They were at a kids' party FFS. Demi was very nice. She brought her little doggies. Story 35. The first really big wow this is just a completely different life I had was a last-minute trip to NY where I didn't have time to pack. Only had my model bag and uni bag. So I sent my details, measurements, itinerary, preferences, and IG to a stylist, and by the time we landed and got to where we were staying, she'd prepared a complete wardrobe for me, including accessories, along with a seamstress to make adjustments right away. Really great hotel staff, whether in hotels or yacht stews, continue to amaze me with how quickly, perfectly, and invisibly they can unpack, pack, and store all your stuff. Not only is everything perfect as soon as you get to your room, but it's all arranged exactly as it was the last time you left there, because they filmed and photographed everything when they packed and or stored it last time. Story 36. Used to travel internationally for work, and sometimes private planes were the only way to get to where I needed to be. Lost count of the amount of seriously rich people who told me that fines are just a price tag for the things you want to do. If I ever mentioned the illegality of an action to get the job done, they would ask me what it costs to do it and just factor it into the overall price.